Okay, so let us try to understand caste from the previous equation perspective. So first, as we know that caste is a new caste-based census. It is a new, so let's try to quickly understand where all does caste figure out in previous equation. First, caste-based politics is an aberration to the parliamentary system of government. This parliamentary system of government it called for a representation to the legislative, but because of the divisions, we tend to elect caste-based leaders from our own caste. So regionalism, regional differences, and caste-based politics. So the vote bank politics in terms of caste politicization, and caste-based political parties. So these are some of the aberrations we can say to our political parliament system of government. Next is about the Bhakti saint Raidas. Raidas was our basically that he was born in Benares. Was a lower caste saint of medieval age in Bhakti movement. So Raidas, you can remember that Bhakti saint is among the untouchables. So next, after Raidas, it's about the evils in the society. Nothing much cast as a evil in the society. So again, when we talk about social religious reform movement, caste movement figure out as a major theme. So what are the if you observe this, what was the character of social religious reform movements in the 19th century, and how did how they contribute to the national awakening in India? So this was the question asked with respect to the religious awakening, social religious awakening in the 19th century, and how they contribute to the national awakening. So, for example, in the 19th century, we had many social evils. So we various factors that led to the awakening of social religious reforms in Indian society were like the Western influence, the Western education, Western values, liberalism, those utilitarian values, education, and also for reforms were aimed at abolition of social evils like the Parda system, child marriage, preventive and polygamy, polytheism, female infanticide, restriction on majority marriage and such. So these were social uh, evils, but also there were certain evils which are attached to caste. Caste hierarchy, caste-based discrimination was still present. Caste rigidities we can see here, especially for the Dalits, Harijans. So this was also present in the social religious reform movement. So go on. So examine the role of caste in Indian politics. So this is exactly the theme which is in the current news. So role of caste in Indian politics. If you see caste is a social section, if you just have to define it, caste is a social section of Indian society. It has gained influential position in Indian politics. Right, as we discussed, many caste political parties, regional parties have come up. It plays both the sides. Like it is a divisive role. It has also a cohesive role. Caste can also divide. Caste can also unite. So it becomes divisive when questions come of national unity. Exactly, this is the perspective which we discussed today. That when we see national unity as a whole, the formation of numerous castes and subcastes are antithetical to national unity. They can, be um, a divisive element when we take when we see from the perspective of unity and integrity of the nation. But regarding the local local elite group, it gives a cohesive group by uniting the people of caste. So caste is also uh, a good tool to mobilize people. For example, you can quote the recent Lingayat movement of Karnataka, or any caste mobilization which is done across states. Even politicians attach their slogans and manifest to particular caste. So there is caste-based appeasement. So caste groups utilize the numerical strength. Yes, it has numerical strength to bargain for a political cause, and lower caste upliftment has remained a central issue. So this appeasement towards lower caste um, leaders chosen from the dominant caste of the region. So these are suggestions non customer region, and this is also a way of distributing tickets to win the population. Many politicians use caste theories. For example, Jinaba in Gujarat gave Ksham, that is Kshatriya, Harijan, Ahir Muslim theory. So this is one theory given by Jinaba in Gujarat. So policies of reservation, as we are discussing today, emanating from the caste factor in Indian society. So reservation in India is given based on caste. We discussed scheduled caste, whereas OBCs, all these are caste-based reservation in Indian society. Caste is a reality in India. Government policies are also inspired by casteism. Caste is present. Indian political system is largely dependent upon various factors like caste is one thing, religion, so which can be termed as an unhappy situation. This is why a term is unhappy because caste is something which is ascriptive factor where by solely based on birth, a person is assigned to a certain caste. But in 21st century, where India has progressed 75 years post its independence, in free India, the role of caste, okay, attaching status of a person to a caste is somewhat a medieval and a British idea, because British introduced this idea for dividing the country. So that is the thing. So this is one element of caste in Indian politics. So what dividing, cohesion, numerical strength, vote bank politics, leaders, also reservation. So going to the next dimension. See, are the traditional determinants of voting behavior and changing? So see, caste is one of the traditional voting behavior of India. So many people even today vote based on caste. There are caste-based and religion-based politics. Political parties are also present in the name of caste. So it is a traditional factor. Voting based on caste is still prevalent. And if you see in terms of other topic of pressure group politics is seen as an informal phase of politics. With regard to the above, this was in 2013, assess the structure and functioning of pressure groups. Caste-based groups also act as pressure groups because they in a way influence the political parties. For example, if you see there are caste groups such as Brahmin Sabha, Nair Society, they influence policies of the government. They, because of the numerical strength, they try to influence the policies. They lobby for their own members. So this is also in respect to pressure groups. And when you look about the topic of SHGs also, there's a question asked: the penetration of SHGs in rural areas in promoting participation in development programs is facing socio-cultural hurdles. So why SHGs are facing socio-cultural hurdles is because of the traditional mindset present in the rural backyard, which is just the caste. The prevalence of caste system in India has put a barrier to the formation of SHGs in rural India. So caste again with pressure groups, caste also with SHGs, caste with women empowerment, social mobility. All these factors are already asked. And also we know that approaches of Mahatma Gandhi and B.R. Ambedkar, despite having divergences. So they had certain divergences in their approach, but ultimately their common goal was amelioration of the downtrodden. For example, Mahatma Gandhi and Ambedkar were committed to the goal of amelioration of downtrodden in their own way, right? But their approach were different. This is the thing, although their end goal was same, the means or approach was different. Since Gandhiji was born in a merchant class family, his approach to the problem of anticipated from humanitarian perspective, and wanted to erode it out of the fabric of society. So Gandhi saw it as a social evil. He saw it as a degraded form of caste system. So Ambedkar identified himself as victim. Ambedkar was a victim of such a practice. He himself has faced so much of humiliation in the country. Ultimately, he had to go to the foreign land to read and stood to protect from Dalits. Dalits from fall out of the inhuman practice. So Gandhi's approach was more on reformative. Right? Gandhi was trying to reform the caste system. He felt that he believed that education in the society and to accept all castes on equal footing. So education would help change the mindset of people. This was Gandhi's view. He believed in teaching the Varna system of society based on work. See, Varna Gandhi thought was uh, a proper classification between work distribution and is not necessarily means to divide society. So this was Gandhi's view. In his ideas, caste system itself was not discriminatory. Right? Caste system itself is not discriminatory, but how it was put to use. Therefore, it was not required to abolish the Varna system, but say rather he believed in creating respect for human being without discrimination. So it's a very Gandhi's idealistic view, but in reality, it's not happening. Of course, he opposed separate electorate of Dalits. We remember in the communal award given by Ramsay MacDonald. So separate electorate he opposed for Dalits on the lines of Muslims. This was British tactics to divide India. On the other hand, if you see Ambedkar was a more revolutionary. So Gandhi was more reformative. Ambedkar was a revolutionary approach who completely opposed the caste and Varna system as basis of discrimination in society. So especially in his book Annihilation of Caste, he advocated this view. For him, as this was the practice, Varna and caste were branding people in particular section of society and not giving a chance for upliftment, especially the elite, with respect to power capture and grabbing certain economic and political power, we were not yielding to these lower class people. Therefore, abolition of caste system was necessary to eliminate discrimination. Is what uh, Ambedkar's view is. They wanted to abolish it. Dr. Ambedkar demanded separate electorate for Dalits because he felt that by giving political representation, they could largely practice for themselves. He ensured provisions of reservation in the constitution. So, as we discussed, reservation is there for caste and education. The system, thus both leaders had completely different approach towards the one goal. So, this is one important perspective from both the leaders. So, moving forward, as we see, even in caste negative angle, what we can say is caste overlapping with patriarchy and gender. So, then, if you see the trijunction of caste, patriarchy, and gender issues, become this question that how do you explain the statistics that show sex ratio of tribes? India is more favorable to women than sex ratio of scheduled caste. Scheduled caste largely influenced by the traditional patriarchal mindset compared to scheduled tribes who are more egalitarian in nature. So they have a better sex ratio compared to scheduled castes. This is a key thing. So the census of 2011 shows that sex ratio among scheduled castes was 945. So sex ratio of scheduled caste was 945, and the number was 990 among the STs. So there's a lot of difference. At a level, this phenomenon was attributed mainly to social factors prevalent in scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. Scheduled tribes are predominantly living in rural areas, mainly in forested regions. Agriculture remains primary activity in women and poverty. Many tribes do not have dowry system. So they don't have this derogated practices of dowry system, while some tribes reverse dowry is practiced. So reverse dowry is actually where bride gives the dowry. I can't call it dowry, but yeah, reverse dowry is practiced. Tribal people follow their customs and traditions and live in their groups and societies uh, and accept minimal influence of outside. These factors are responsible that girl child is welcome. So girl child is welcome and women have their own roles to play in the society. Most women enjoy equal status with men. So this is the key point that women enjoy equal status with. Uh, so sex ratio shows that there's no equal status. So scheduled castes are not living in major groups. Are not living in major groups away from mainstream society. They face suppression of a customary social system, and women are the worst victims. So it's because they come at the bottom of the hierarchy. Social labels like dowry, like the system of preference to male child over female is prevalent among scheduled castes. And scheduled castes are not mainly agrarian. Employment is dependent on industries, labor is not easily available for women. So, in that sense, there's large amount of male migration happening, male dependency, male dominance. You can see there. Women do not have equal status with the women. These issues have resulted in lower sex ratio. Social caste is also one of the negative things with respect to sex ratio. So moving forward, so when it comes to caste, there's argument of Dalit movement, Dalit identity, debate the issue whether the contemporary movement for assertion of Dalit identity work towards annihilation of caste. Whether this has happened. What we see in the contemporary movement is that our assertion of Dalit identity have been focusing on certain specific issues to Dalit identity by securing their interest in every aspect of life. Like for example, if you see, they've created their own parties, creating political vote bank of Dalit groups to support Dalit or favoring Dalit politicians at the local and state level. They mobilize Dalit vote bank and promote Dalit interests. What are Dalit interests specifically? Dalit interests are seeking more power. Dalit interests are seeking more reservation and seeking more entry into government sphere. Um, as I mentioned, government jobs, political mobilization. But most of the time, these movements are not spread at national level and do not take into account the wider interest of the Dalit community at pan-Indian level. This assertion is against untouchability. So their assertion is against untouchability and discrimination as the main agenda. However, movements have been successful highlighting the issue related to Dalits and given give them voice at national level. They have increased awareness among the policymakers. These movements have built pressure through various political and pressure groups. As we discussed earlier, political groups and pressure groups are also influencing us. However, movements for assertion of Dalit identity are far away from the goal of Dr. Ambedkar, who desired a nation of caste system as a final solution of Dalit movement. However, they have been able to improve the condition of status of Dalit by challenging the oppression and exploitation of the community. But these movements are in fact strengthening the caste-based system. So that's what a caste begets caste in that sense. The caste-based identity is strengthening instead of diluting the caste-based Ambedkar envisaged. One dimension the caste-based movement, direct movements have in fact given rise to more and more role of caste. So again, one more critical dimension is the absence of well-educated and organized local level government in panchayats and committees have remained mainly political institutions and not effective instruments of governance. So, in the absence of such well-educated who rise above the social barriers of religion and caste and organized local level government system, panchayats and committees have remained mainly political institutions and not effective instruments of governance. Just remember. And then panchayats, as you know, they are extra constitutional authorities have been in use for functioning as extra constitutional authorities, often delivering pronouncements amounting to human rights violation. Critically, this critical actions taken by legislative, executive, and judiciary to set things right. So, caste the panchayats, they also belong from particular dominant caste. They try to exert their opinion, especially in terms of marriage issues, that they condemn the marriage or even they are dishonored the members of caste. So basically, they are acting against the choice, the consent of the two consenting adults. It's one view of carbon science also. And then if you see to what extent globalization has influenced the core of cultural diversity. So in India, cultural diversity, India is known for unity and diversity. Caste also is one form of diversity present in India. Numerous castes and subcastes present in India. So how globalization has impacted the cultural diversity. So caste is also one aspect of cultural diversity. India is a country of cultural diversity. If you see aspects of cultural diversity is language, dress code, dress clothing, and way of life differ from one region to another. Diversity is interwoven in Indian culture. So, in fact, if there's one word which you can attribute to India, it is diversity. So, diversity, globalization has merged traditional borders and reduced distances because it has made the world a global village. Close contacts, frequent interaction among members have led to exchange of ideas, culture, and values. It also helps in breaking the stereotypes. To some extent, this has impacted Indian cultural diversity in ways. For example, the first thing is the caste system, which we're discussing. Caste system, strong phenomenon of Indian society, has been dying slowly to some extent due to the globalization resultant mixing of people. We can see social mobility in the urban areas where we can see caste being replaced by class in different caste groups for economic and social purposes. Similarly, impact of globalization is evident on family system. We were discussing family, we can discuss that. But when we focus on caste and globalization, we can see that caste to some extent has been diluted. But at the same time, you can also see that caste is also, for these examples, can be given in terms of intercaste marriages, especially in urban sphere. Although very small, but still there is increasing trend we can see of intercaste marriages in urban sphere, especially. One view of globalization and caste. Apart from that, regionalization. So in regionalization also there is caste based angle linked in regionalization. What is the basis of regionalization? When they ask, is unequal distribution of benefits of development or regional basis eventually promotes regional substantial your answer. So caste and religion have played important role in India. Caste and religion have played important role in India to caste and religion have played important role in India to grow regionalization. So regionalization also has caste as a dimension. And then caste dominance, right? So caste dominance is there, right? So this one, you can see the local self-government not proved effective because of the caste dominance. And then when we talk about elimination of untouchability or caste discrimination, you still just look at this question. This question in terms of the significance of the right of Gandhiji in the present times. So in present times, if you see Gandhiji, what was Gandhi's idea? Gandhi's idea was to uh, see the caste system be reformed. He didn't want the evils of untouchability, man scavenging, all these things to be present, or even the caste violence. So this you want to remove. Coming specific to that point, eliminating untouchability, caste discrimination is still not ceased. So as you know, caste discrimination, caste-based violence is still happening against, especially Dalit rapes against Dalit women. So this Gandhi ideal social consciousness to eliminate is needed. And then when you talk about the recent question of 2018, caste system is assuming new identities and association forms. Hence, caste system cannot be eradicated. So it's the same question which previously I had asked. That caste system is assuming new identities. So So if you see caste refers to the broad hierarchy is arrangement along with basic social factors like birth, marriage, sharing of food based on birth, assigned to caste based on marriage, you do caste based on food sharing, as are arranged in hierarchy and rank. These subdivisions are traditionally linked to occupation as descriptive and decide the social relations with respect to the upper and lower caste. So the traditional hierarchical order of caste was based on distinction of purity and pollution. Earlier it was based on purity and pollution. That notion was manifestation of the order has changed to a larger extent in recent times. The system itself has not changed much. This is one thing. The caste system is still relevant. For example, even though untouchability and caste-based discrimination is a barrier, the Constitution outlaws this. The Constitution is playing a major role as a dividing document between the previous history and the present. Occupations like manual scavenging also have always have workers from the uh, lower, even the waste pickers, rag pickers, people living in slum, all are from the lower caste. They're pushed to the periphery always. New identities and political. The second part of the question, they're assuming new identities and association forms. This is the new identity in terms of political caste-based political parties, which we discussed. Like in contrast to old structure, various caste communities have asserted themselves, forming political parties on the basis of caste. For example, if you see the BSP of UP, political revolution on caste has been rising. Lingayats are demanding. They also went to the tune of declaring separate religion. And then talk about economic development policies are targeting backward castes and scheduled caste benefit only certain have benefited only a certain section. These sections also emerge as elite, and this has created division within the backward class. So that's why there is a demand for sub quota in every caste. Also, the welfare policies have led to social stigma among the castes and which are not included. These policies have strengthened the caste-based mobilization. For example, usually the dominant castes like Kanaka, Kapurs, Patidars have been demanding reservation. This is also because the jobs in government sphere is decreasing and agricultural distress is there. Because of a combination of these two, there is and the force of LPG operating. So they are demanding for more reservation. And if you see recent trend also, they are demanding for more reservation in private jobs also because government jobs are decreasing, right? So socially empowered and landholding communities like that also mobilized for demanding reservations. This is the new form. And then talk about social under the impact of globalization and technological advancement. The strict codes of caste and inheritance have diluted. This has diluted the again, we discussed in the globalization, more inter-caste marriage taking place. Caste groups like Khapanchayats have been brought under the scrutiny of Indian judiciary. Caste groups like Khapanchayats have been brought under the scrutiny of Indian judiciary. Judiciary has to openly also, we can also talk about broadly the role of judiciary and constitution in outlining the expression of social exclusion, maintaining caste-based division by communities has never vanished, but it has become more subtle. For example, we can openly see the matrimonial advertisements based on newspaper, especially demand brides for particular caste. Every religion that do not follow caste system uh, have observed caste-based discrimination. Dalits have also converted. We can see many Dalits, lower caste people, who converted to Christianity after revivals in Kerala. Conclusion is that considering these divisions offers solidarity and psychological strength because they get a comfort group to various marginalized groups. Even if caste-based discrimination is diffused, even if the caste-based discrimination is diffused through the legislative enforcement, the division of identity will be difficult to erase because caste has become a fundamental marker of identity in India. Come to Bhakti movement. Bhakti movement. Again, this was a question asked just to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also tried to reform the caste system. You can quote him as an example, or any other person's example, condemning the caste system, emphasizing on equality, their values. This mentioned as a passing reference of how in different parts of the country, the social reform leaders they tried to condemn the caste system because of its evils, discrimination, sustain and promote the emphasis on equality. Equality was emphasized back then also, where constitution today its constitution is doing that role. And then we can also see that the rigid caste system of India society melted as indentured labor. Okay, so this was about indentured labor. Apart from that, there's one specific question: women and caste. So this question is very important because women's movement in India has not addressed the issue of women of lower strata, especially the Dalit women. When you talk about substantiative women's movement has not addressed the issue of lower caste women. So then, what is that? What has it addressed? So if you see, through the efforts were made to uplift the status of women prior to independence, women's movement in India gained prominence from the 1970s and 80s, the feminist movement, basically what you can say, especially the Chipko movement, also correlated, started at the same time. These movements have tried to bring women-specific issues in public domain. So, what are the women-specific issues? And it is found that these were not able to address the issues of lower women, which is maybe women from SC, like Dalit, women from ST, women from minority, women from the economically weaker section also. So, when talking about women from lower social strata, talking across the social strata, it may be women from lower caste, women from tribe, women from the poorer sections, and also from the minority groups. It has been seen that activists within the movements are urban. So most of the leaders who want they're urban, they're Western, actually they're middle class. Therefore, the movement is considered as a Western product. It has little to do with the lives of thousands of poor, rural, underprivileged women of all India. So there is a eliteness in the movement, which you can see. Women continue to have unequal access to land and other resources, as we know in terms of agriculture. We're seeing many tags being like feminization of agriculture, feminization of poverty. So all these are related to the lower class women. But still, that is not taken up in the mainstream. Compensation policies, compensation policies of displacement are inevitably. So just we can add a tag here of feminization of agri and poverty. So, are inevitably discriminatory towards women of social strata due to multiple reasons. So, multiple reasons such as lack of awareness, education, etc. Women from these sections are also find it more difficult to get loans. Right? So that's why we have come across schemes such as Stand Up India, focusing specifically on SC/ST women. Recently, several movements have raised gender issues through, for example, the Temple Entry movement, the Triple Talaq. All these are in a way a government movement, but the temperate movement are restricted to specific places only. Right? Triple talaq, especially into hinterland or rural areas, go unnoticed. Sexual and domestic violence is mainly perpetrated against women from the lower caste and poor women, but this issue has not acquired a center stage in the discourse of women movements. So this is one issue. Issues of women agriculture laborers, as we discussed, feminization of agriculture, fair wages, women domestic workers, women managed scavengers are not raised issue prominently. There is also counted with that urban middle class women are not participants of the or one of the participants of the movement. So it is rather the poor women who are the backbone exemplified presence of women in anti. So if you see most of the women which are most of the women movements which have taken place, they are due to the poor women. For example, the anti-alcohol agitation of Andhra Pradesh, the anti-Arak movement, which we call, and then even in the poor women of rainy village of Uttarakhand, uh, they contribute towards the Sikko movement. So all these also contribute to poor women, but these urban middle class women they just become the face of the movement. There are substantial evidences to prove that women empowerment has neglected lower strata women. So the National Federation of Dalit Women, formed in 1995, has forced the women movement in India to address the caste question seriously. It has forced the women to take up the caste question seriously. Thus, this urgent need of women's movement to be more inclusive. In fact, any movement has to be more inclusive, addressing every question or every section, embracing the cause of poor and also vulnerable. This is one little dimension here. And the last question which was asked was 28, you can look up the answer later. Has caste lost its relevance? So after studying all this, if we can think of 2020's question, has caste lost its relevance in understanding the multicultural diverse society in India? First, we can openly start about caste being a reality in India today because we see mobilization in terms of caste-based politics, caste-based reservation, caste-based violence, caste-based discrimination, reservation. All caste is a reality. So this we can agree in terms of yes, and then I can also show that yes, it is relevant. It's to that point that yes, caste is relevant. And then in terms of no, you can say that due to influence of globalization, due to influence of education, due to influence of liberal values, and also a constitution playing a major role, judiciary playing a major role, institutions set up for them, the intercaste marriage is somewhat being seen and caste being replaced by other indicators. We can say that no, also in that sense. So, with examples, we have to conclude that across family system, across the food, across rural, urban, yes, it is relevant, and no, it is not relevant. But largely, as you know, caste is a reality in India today. So, this is the dimension. So I think we've done the previous questions on caste.